A product of hemomancy experiments in Noxus, Briar was born a being of endless hunger who lived only for her next bloody meal. But after many years under lock and key, she learned to control her hunger and choose when to fully unleash. Now she's free and learning who's friend and who's food.
This is
As
a jungler.
Briar wants to eat camps until she sees a tasty pick or counter gank on the menu. When it's time to feast, she dives teeth first into the fight and loves every second of it. Hope you came hungry, because we're serving up the facts about this insatiable
She just
jungler.
now throwing
Welcome
arrow
to the
over.
Briar Champion Spotlight.
Restrained hunger.
Sorry, old habit.
She had like a restrained abilities.
Briar's passive is Crimson Curse. She doesn't have any base health regen, and her abilities cost current health.
So
she can still heal with potions and whatnot, but what she really wants is blood. Her attacks and abilities apply a stacking bleed that heals her based on the damage dealt.
That is
the
not
lower
so
her
she
health,
doesn't
the
heal
hungrier
normally.
she gets, and the greater her healing.
Wow.
This means Briar wants to run into a fight, not away from it. Her increased healing at low health makes her tough to kill, so she can bait enemies into becoming tasty treats.
That is
Food
sick.
doesn't have to be blood? Huh.
Before sampling the rest of her abilities, let's take a look at the main course of Briar's kit, Blood Frenzy. Her W sheds the pillory that restrains her and sends her leaping into frenzy mode for several seconds. She self-taunts to the nearest meal in range, prioritizing enemy champions wherever possible. This means she loses control of her movement and attacks, but can still cast abilities, use summoner spells, and activate items.
I'll fight you and your kids!
While frenzied, she gains attack and move speed, and her attacks deal damage in an area. Briar can also recast W to empower her next attack with Snack Attack. It deals extra damage based on the target's missing health, and heals her for a good chunk too. Briar is at her strongest when she's in Blood Frenzy, because she can clear camps faster and devour enemies. But she's also out of your control. Choose your timing and targets wisely so you don't
once you
bite
pick
off
a
more than
target, you just run into the target, and this is why she can
With
control.
Briar leaps to a target, stuns them, and shreds their armor so they're easier to chew. She can also target an ally to leap to their location. You can cast its ability while Briar is in frenzy mode to help her nom the right target, like a delicious ADC instead of a yucky tank. But be careful. If Briar targets a minion or monster with Q during her frenzy, she will no longer prioritize enemy champions and start hitting whatever's closest. Briar's E is Chilling Scream. She stops in place and charges up, gaining damage reduction and restoring health during the channel. On release, she lets loose a blood-curdling scream that damages and slows enemies in its path. With a full charge, the scream knocks enemies back, stunning them if they hit a wall and dealing tons of damage.
So that's like Vayne's
Briar can cast its ability while she's in frenzy mode to snap out of it. In fact, it's the only way to end Blood Frenzy early, so don't waste that cooldown.
Shit.
Use it to heal up and disengage after you've gotten your fill of fighting, or slam your next target into a wall for seconds.
Done.
We don't have
And
to
she can
fight.
dash forward to
You
go to
can
Lux.
just
The first
share your
ability.
Nowhere is safe from Briar when she's hungry, and that's all the time. For her
She's
ult
on
certain
those
death,
stuff.
Briar kicks a helolith across the map. It travels over a huge range and marks the first enemy champ it hits as her prey.
It's whole
Then
map
she flies to their
and
location like a
towards
bat out of hell. On landing, she damages everything nearby and makes
Fez.
other enemies flee in terror. Then it's dinner time. Briar enters an empowered Blood Frenzy with extra resists, lifesteal, and move speed. Unlike her normal frenzy, Briar's ult makes her prioritize her prey and
she doesn't take any damage
or dies trying. But that doesn't mean you have to run it down. You can still use her Q to stun, W to reposition and bite, or E to end the chase early if it means living to eat another day. Certain death makes Briar a constant threat, especially as a follow-up to her teammates' crowd control. Use it to join a juicy fight from across the map, or to back up your friends with a counter gank. There won't be any leftovers.
Oh crap, that is Ada. Oh crap,
Briar was built around the idea of losing control to gain power and putting that choice in your hands. So instead of sophisticated mechanics and precision skill shots, it's all about timing.
It's
a Briar
timing that you have
who
to pick
cooldowns
whenever.
on junk food is easy pickings for an invading enemy. Choosing the ideal moment to frenzy, getting on the right targets, and knowing when to snap out of it will mean the difference between dining and dying. Briar may be strongest while she's frenzying, but there is no such thing as a free lunch. She's susceptible to crowd control of all kinds, so chaotic team fights where enemies can peel her off priority targets are tough to swallow. Instead, look for small skirmishes and picks where she can gobble up her prey before they know what bit them. While Briar isn't picky about whom she eats, enemies with good mobility or escape tools may leave a bad taste in her mouth.
His name again,
they can waste her frenzy time and lead her into a bad spot. Similarly, champs that can keep her teeth busy with the wrong target really ruin her appetite. Clones and tanks just don't taste very good. Wondering if Briar is your flavor? Her all-in kit may be appealing if you like playing divers like Hwei, Diana, or Camille. She also has incredible survivability, so if you enjoy mega healing champions like Warwick, Aatrox, or Vladimir, give her a try.
You're nervous. Is it the
Her
pillory?
Hawk,
I
but
can
you
take
think
it
Hawk
off.
character,
Alright,
the
less
fact that she
talking,
doesn't
more
heal,
eating. Dig in with Briar, the
and
restraint
you have
hunger.
to jump in like it's real far. That is sick. It's either go hard or die with her. It's an artist.
Something dark clings to me. Has always lived in me.
She has Powder's
see.
eyes, Jinx eyes,
Destruction
paints
and
it.
despair. You brought it to light, Jin.
Jin?
Good, evil. The line blurs.
She's
I keep
associated with Jin?
spiraling down paths I never thought I'd walk. There is light in me.
He's from
I
Zon.
can't lose sight of it. And the colors come flooding
The
back.
middle laner.
Open your eyes.
Bro, he can. I thought it was a teleport, but
Every
it's not.
question, every burden, every vision. I'll lay them out here. Art, life, death. All I've seen, all made clear.
He probably has something like an attack that works with Jin. You see, he had these same purple eyes like Jinx. They did some work on him.
A former heir to the Temple of Koyan in Ionia, Hwei spent his
Ionia,
youth training
okay.
and honing paint magic with the temple's masters. Beneath his melancholic exterior is a fantastical and colorful imagination that he's able to bring to life with a swipe of his brush. Following the horrific yet captivating destruction of his temple home, Hwei's art now reflects an internal struggle.
But Jin
between
is from
beauty and
Ionia as
despair.
well, yes, not
The
Zon.
power of art
What am I
can bring
saying?
people together or rip them apart. Which will you choose? Welcome to the Hwei Champion Spotlight.
Visionary.
There's no secret to art. Just begin and keep going. That's all we can do.
paint magic abilities.
Hwei's Q, W, and E spellbooks each have 3 abilities that are accessed by pressing 2 keys, like QQ, QW, or QE, and share cooldowns with other spells from that
is so
spellbook.
Holy
The Q spellbook, Disasters, summons bombastic AoE spells and is your primary damage source. Pressing QQ casts Devastating Fire, a fiery dart that soars out in a line and explodes on the first enemy hit or at the end of its path to all enemies in the area. QW is Severing Bolt, a delayed but powerful artillery shot. Immobilized or isolated targets take extra damage based on their missing health. QE
You have to
is
stun
Molten
someone to
Fissure,
use
an
that.
exploding lava field that deals damage and slows enemies in its path. The W spellbook, Serenities, is based around solo and team utility.
bro, so basically you can have like 3 different. That's
WQ is Fleeting Current,
Fleeting
giving
Current.
you and your allies movement speed in a line.
WQ,
WW is Pool of Reflection,
WWE.
granting shields in an area.
so this is more like shielding.
WE is Stirring Lights, 3 encircling lights that buff your next 3 attacks or abilities with bonus damage that restores mana on hit.
So it's
The E
WEQQ.
spellbook, Torments, paints crowd control to restrain your enemies with horrific creation.
He's
EQ
too
for
much.
Grim Visage damages and causes the enemy to flee. EW for Gaze of the Abyss summons a painted eye that will lock onto the first enemy champion it sees, firing after a slight delay, damaging and rooting the
crowd control.
first thing in its path. EE for Crushing Maw, damaging and pulling enemies toward the center, then slowing them as they crawl away. This is a lot to digest, and we haven't
Look
even
at
gotten
that!
to the rest of his kit. Here's a spellbook cheat sheet to screenshot and reference when initially playing the
The
Visionary.
fuck?
A painter meets their subject, eye to eye.
Hwei's passive is Signature of the Visionary. His damaging abilities mark enemy champions until it's detonated by a secondary damaging spell. If enemies can't move away in time, they'll be hit with a small AoE explosion. Hwei's passive is strongest when multiple targets are grouped for stacked
Together.
Visionary detonation. But timing is key since enemies can leave the damage zone
Elena.
before the signature detonates. Quickly cast spells to apply the mark on several champions, then deal devastating AoE damage with a larger spell. Hwei's
Bro, he-
palette culminates into his ultimate work, Spiraling
Spiraling
Despair.
Despair.
The spell sends out a thin, long-range missile that spawns a zone
It's like
attached to
Gwen.
the first enemy struck.
Not Gwen.
Those caught in the zone are inflicted with despair, an increasing slow that stacks over the ultimate's duration. They also receive ticking damage.
What
Upon
is-
reaching the completion, the zone shatters, dealing tons of damage to all stuck within. Mastering
Zed was
Hwei's ultimate
outside.
is to overwhelm your enemies with despair, preventing their escape from the final implosion of damage. It's long range but can be tricky to land on one specific target. You'll want to utilize additional spellbook crowd control to help land the initial cast, then trap multiple targets when they're grouped up, and stack
then hit
despair
him
slows to keep enemies stuck within the emptiness.
None
He
of
has
us
too
will
much.
leave unchanged.
He has
I'll make sense
too
of our
much
suffering.
With
into his
myriad
kit.
gameplay possibilities, Hwei was made to unlock a new level of creativity for players by creating a kit that mixes and matches abilities for any situation. His playstyle is unique among mages and reliant on comboing spells and mastering artistic blends.
Yeah, dog, you have to know
Becoming
what
a visionary
to use.
is no small feat, and though Hwei's skill ceiling is higher than average, once
And
the
he
paint
run
starts
inside
flowing,
of
you can
the
make
party.
masterpieces in no
Swing,
time.
you cannot
As mentioned earlier, Hwei's spellbooks have 3 abilities
Yo,
each for a total of 9 possible basic abilities. Q abilities are damage-based, W abilities are utility-focused, and E abilities have crowd control.
Crowd control, yeah.
While some spells have a straightforward use, flex your artistic creativity to mix spellbook abilities and create spell combinations on the fly. When you're learning Hwei, try using every spell
movement
sequence at
speed.
least once to get in the flow of pressing 2 keys to cast.
Please focus. You shape what I make.
Let's paint a better picture of some possible rotations. Use WE for quick trades and to stretch out your mana pool between spells in lane. You can also use WE into QQ for a reliable 1-2 punch, zoning them from minions while clearing your own wave.
Boom.
If you can land an empowered auto attack, you'll even get the Visionary Signature Explosion. To maximize an AoE combo, QE to slow, then
How's
EE to
movement
pull
speed?
enemies back into the lava field, and finish with a QW as they try to retreat.
And that's
You can also
the
cool
delayed
your opponent's
one.
aggression with an EQ Fear, then follow that up with a QQ or QW trade of your own. One of Hwei's full rotations starts with a WE auto attack to attach a Visionary Signature to your target and apply a damage buff to your next couple spells.
QE.
Then you'll want to EE to pull enemies into place for spiraling despair.
What did that?
While they're
Boom.
slowed with increasing despair stacks and passive marks, use QE or QQ to slam more damage and guarantee
Wow.
an explosive finish. Phew, that had a lot of layers. But Hwei's art isn't limited to destruction spells and terrorizing your lane opponents. When you're in the thick of a jungle chase, use a WQ speed boost to get in range for EW and prevent enemies from escaping. You can also utilize WW's shielding when sieging objectives. But if an unintended teamfight breaks out, WQ instead for a speedy getaway, and
guess so,
QE
yeah.
to slow down pursuers.
A piece is never really finished. Just abandoned.
Bro,
For all his fantastical
kit
spells,
is-
Hwei's survivability relies on being proactive and managing his cooldowns.
You have to be
He has an offensive safety
extremely
net with
creative.
WQ's move
Dog.
speed or WW's shield, but he may feel incentivized to WE often for damage and restoring mana. Since each spellbook shares cooldowns, if you waste WE on some minions, you'll be left without any defense if the enemy
shit.
jungler decides to gank. You'll also need to know when to paint offensive abilities. EW is great for
Evelyn.
checking a brush, but it'll lock you out of EQ's fear and EE's disengage if a fight suddenly breaks out. QQ is all but guaranteed damage, but then
Damage.
Hwei won't have the reactive disengage from QE slow. Each spell serves a unique purpose, and understanding which spell to use in the right
As,
situation is
Neferi.
key. Remember, there's no such thing as mistakes, just happy accidents.
Happy
If you enjoy
accidents.
controlling the battlefield like Orianna and Victor, then Hwei is a great choice. He also has a ton of skill potential if you like playing high-skilled champions like Azir. Or if you suffer from a looming sense of artistic dread and struggle to complete your list of works in progress, this is the Hwei. Feelings are
This is
temporary
the
and
Hwei.
art is forever, so take that pain and make it painful.
He's
Learn more about Hwei, the Visionary, at the links below.
He's so much. He's bro. How the fuck people? And he have people who would master this guy to a fucking T and play like legends, dog.
Long
Smolder.
ago, before the Ruination
Smolder.
ended their line, the royal family of Camivore revered Imperial
Camivore.
dragons as powerful and majestic creatures. So as one of the few Imperial dragons still alive today, Smolder is kind of a
Smolder.
big deal. Or he will be, at least, as soon as he masters flying,
So
and
he's
breathing
at
fire,
ADC.
and being big, and scary. You know, dragon stuff.
Sizzle!
The Fiery Fledgling is an ADC who's all about scaling. He may seem like a tiny spark at first, but he can grow into a late-game inferno. So, you ready to play with fire?
He gets
Welcome
bigger.
to the Smolder Champion Spot.
Fire
Go
fledgling.
Smolder! Go Smolder!
I doubt he gets bigger. Like in the late game, he just
Smolder's passive
gets
is
stronger.
Dragon Practice.
Dragon
Whenever he
Practice.
hits a champion with an ability or kills a target with Q, he learns a bit more about dragoning and gains a stack.
Oh,
Each
okay.
stack increases the damage of his basic abilities, making them extra spicy as he gets more practice. This means Smolder gets stronger and stronger.
Come on. True.
This means Smolder gets stronger and stronger as the game goes on.
So this is
let
skill
him
in
cook.
champ.
Q is Smolder's Super
Super
Scorcher
Scorching
Breath.
Breath.
He spits the biggest, awesomest fireball he can muster at his target. Okay, so maybe it's
Can
not
muster.
that impressive yet. You just wait.
You started it.
As Smolder gains more stacks of his passive, he enhances Super Scorcher Breath in 3 tiers. At tier 1, it deals AoE damage around the target.
Okay.
At tier 2, more explosions shoot off behind the
Oh,
initial
it's
fireball.
behind.
And at tier 3, the flame burns targets for additional true damage over a few seconds.
It's like
if they drop
brand.
below a certain health threshold in that time, they're toast. Don't
Aye.
forget that Smolder gains stacks whenever he hits enemy champs with abilities or kills a unit with Q. Focus on last hitting and poking
Hitting
opponents with
with
Q,
Q.
so he reaches those stack tiers as quickly as possible. By the time late game rolls around, he'll be a teamfight terror with tons of AoE
And he
damage.
shoots fast as
Breathing
well.
fire isn't without its challenges though, like all that soot in your nose. With W, Smolder sneezes
true.
out a fiery glob. This blast damages and briefly slows targets and explodes around any champions in the line of fire. And you thought your allergies were bad.
So he can choose when to
During
explode
laning
it, or
phase,
is just
Achoo is a crucial farming tool for Smolder. He can use it to soften up a wave, then last
Okay.
hit with Q for all the stacks. In
Nice.
team fights, it's a powerful AoE spell. Hitting multiple champions sets off explosions around each one.
He
which
has a
scale
lot
with
of damage
passive
in-
and ability rank.
Boom.
That late game
It
damage
doesn't
is
blow up
nothing
like
to sneeze
that.
at. Don't you just love his little
E?
wings? Well, they aren't just for princely charm. Smolder's E, flap, flap, flap,
flap, flap.
sends him into the air for a short duration where he ignores terrain and gains move speed and vision.
Is he
He'll bombard the
untargetable?
closest enemy in range with bursts of flame, prioritizing the lowest health champion. Smolder's E can help him catch fleeing enemies and
Oh, it's
secure
basically
kills,
like a dash.
but it's also his only escape tool. So fly with caution, or you may crash and burn.
What did I do?
Behind every adorable baby dragon is a super protective mama dragon.
So this is his
Smolder's ult
mama?
Summons Mom to teach a lesson to any meanies picking on her son.
But he's the only
Face
one left.
melting,
Where does his mom
scorched
come
earth
from?
kind of lesson. After casting, Smolder's mom flies overhead, breathing down a wave of fire and burning
Yeah.
enemies to a crisp. Targets caught in the
So
center.
Camille
extra
just like
damage and are
make
slowed.
herself untargetable
The
when the
wave starts
mother
a
was
little
just
bit
coming
behind
over
Smolder's
school.
position and continues over a long distance. Anyone who might be hit by the
He
flames
stole
will hear
her
mom's
buff.
roar as a warning. So best run for cover if you can. Nothing burns quite like a mother's love.
Hey,
While the snow
bro.
can help Smolder disengage if he's in a bad spot, his mom is best at starting fights.
Fire.
Especially if the enemy team is grouped up. Slow them down with the center of Smolder's ult, then go full blast with the rest of his AoE damage. Smolder's
does a
dragon
lot of
practice
damage
stacks are
as
the
well.
fuel for turning this glowing ember into a roaring blaze. He needs to farm safely in the early game to stack his passive and improve his Q before he's ready to take on the world. That means he'll need a more lane-dominant support looking out for him while he grows big
Yeah,
and
like
strong.
a Rakan,
Champions who can
yeah,
zone
some-
opponents off will make great lane partners for this Widow kiddo. On the other hand, he may struggle against lane bullies who can force him to retreat
Jin.
and lose out on stats. Without much dragon practice, his ability to trade is limited, so enemies with lots of poke and engage tools are
Camille.
blistering counterpicks against Smolder. Where he really
Devastated.
burns brightest is teamfighting. Thanks to his powerful AoE damage, roasting grouped up enemies is his specialty. But like most ADCs, he needs to position wisely to stay safe. Fly in
Darwin.
solo and you might just fizzle out.
Die.
Smolder is designed to be a simpler marksman with an approachable kit. So if you've been looking for a reason to learn ADC, who burns hotter than ADC,
I love ADCs.
consider this a warm invitation to try the fiery fledgling.
And
Likewise,
he's
if you
cool.
enjoy marksmen with their own escape tools like Ezreal or Zeri, or
Mm-hmm.
adorable forces of destruction like Tristana and Kog'Maw, you may want to
Okay.
take Smolder for a test flight.
I like
And of
his
course,
kit.
if you love getting stacks on stacks on stacks, looking at
There
you
you go.
Vhagar and Nasus fans, then this scaling damage should be just what you're looking for. Whew, is it toasty in here or just me? I gotta go cool
Nah,
off.
it's
Learn how to
Smolder.
train your dragon at the links below. And bring the heat with Smolder, the fiery fledgling.
He's cool, man. I like his kit. Like an ADC character, you know? Alright, so in future, like future videos, like for League of Legends, we have like, you see below they have like a lot of music videos and some cinematics that I haven't seen as yet. I'll dive into those, man. You don't know it's in my people. Thank you so much, everybody who's here, man. I appreciate all of you, every single one. So yeah, and we finished with all of the champs and them right now. So we're just gonna dive into more and more and more as they come out. You know, I ain't sticking now because League of Legends, you know, one of my favorites. You know, as I said, bless up everybody who's here watching. Thank you so much. So until the next video, my peoples, guys, have a wonderful day. Be good, stay safe. Peace out.